I'm Ricky Belletto, a journalist and presenter for the BBC, currently working on the children's news programme Newsround. The Key To interview is all about getting to know an industry trailblazer or trailblazers and finding out what makes them tick, what they care about and how their careers has reflected that. Now this year, our key holders is a trio of three of the UK's most well-known doctors, stars of the multi-award-winning CBBC medical series Operation Ouch. I'm sure loads of you have seen it, maybe with your kids over breakfast time, which is probably not the best time to watch Operation Ouch. Dr. Zand and Chris and Dr. Ronks are taking time out of their very busy schedules, saving lives, to talk to us. Now, first up is Dr. Zand van Tulleken, who I'm reliably told is older than Chris by 7 minutes. Is that correct?
That is 100% correct. I mean, who knows? Maybe they muddled us up when we were born. You know, you never know if the midwife's really paying attention. But that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Well, as a junior doctor, you worked in Darfur in the Sudan region during the genocide, and this inspired a passion for the medical humanitarian issues that you've been interested in. You juggle your TV roles with your academic roles as a senior fellow at Fordham University and lecturer at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine.
Yeah, that's about right. I'm also at University College London, but anyway, yeah, I've got to do some academic stuff and then also doing Operation Ouch, which I must say, Operation Ouch is my first true love and favourite thing to do. It is the most rewarding and worthwhile thing I've ever done in my life, and I love it to bits. I hope I can do it till I die.
And you're a very busy man. You're currently in a taxi, getting from
performing busyness. I'm just showing off. I'm just driving around the block.
Brilliant. Dr. Chris also juggles a career in showbiz with a medical practice. He is an infectious diseases doctor at University College Hospital London. He has worked as a doctor in some of the harshest and strangest environments on earth and trained the army in survival. Doctor number 3 is Dr. Ronks, part-time TV presenter and accident and emergency doctor. They self-funded their way through medical school after leaving home in their teenage years. During this time, they worked part-time as a model, a dancer, and also a few other jobs, I hear, to sustain their progression through medical school. Dr. Ronks, is that all correct?
No, I mean, there's a lot more. I've got better at bigging myself up. There's so much more, but I like that. That was nice. Thank you.
Great, okay. Okay, now down to the topic. If you're watching this and know the long-running medical series Operation Ouch, it's presented and written by still practicing doctors Chris and Zand and Dr. Ronks. In it, they hope to demystify the world of hospitals, illness, injury, the human body and more, using a variety of wacky experiments, revealing facts and real stories from children. It is brilliant. My 4-year-old is a massive fan. I think before we dive into the questions, should we have a little quick look at Operation Ouch?
Buster, give me a high five. Good boy. I've got Marfan syndrome.
Marfan syndrome can affect many parts of your body.
Go get it, Bust.
In Hayden's case, it is heart.
Hayden's operation was to fix his aorta. This is the main blood vessel leaving your heart and the biggest vessel in your body.
Because of his condition, the valve in Hayden's aorta was leaking.
How did it feel when you saw your own operation on Operation Ouch?
Intriguing, because I got to see like what was happening at the same time as like seeing my heart.
You actually got to see your heart beating in your chest. A bit scary, but also quite awesome, eh?
Yeah.
That is sea slime.
Chris!
Son, you're bleeding and I can't stop it! Hold on!
Okay, so let's peel back the curtain. What is the key to Operation Ouch? Can I start with you, Dr. Ronks? What is the key?
Oh, I think the key to Operation Ouch is there's a lot of meaty parts to this pie. So I think there's the making sure that we use correct language and correct names when we're introducing kids and young people to science and the human body. We don't shy away from injuries. We show real people, real children with real injuries. Some get better, some need more input. We go into real hospitals. We meet real healthcare professionals. There's obviously Chris and Zand, they're amazing, because I only joined in season 7, so this was already a well-oiled machine before I joined. I think me joining it gives it obviously some diversity. I think it's quite nice to have a third twin who is, did you like that, third twin, who has, obviously I love medicine, I love young people, I love kids, but I think I bring not a different dimension, but a different maybe viewer to the show. But all in all, I think it's amazing. I love it.
Dr. Chris, I know that there's so much of your childhood and your relationship with your father that has been played out in this programme and was really an inspiration for it. Can you just tell us what is the key to Operation Ouch for you?
I think originally one of the very practical things that gave the show a particular license was the relationship between me and Zand. And when Ron says that they're the third twin, that is very true. They have very much they are a sibling. And that sibling relationship, siblings are obviously the longest relationships in our lives. And there is a particular way that Zand and I particularly can relate to each other that can be at times quite physical. We can do a lot of slapstick. It can be very funny. And it's understood we are licensed to do very disgusting things with each other. So we can spit things over each other or make things messy or shove each other and bring a piece of science to life. So the sibling relationship and the family relationship is really crucial. Our dad used to do lots of experiments when we were little with animal parts. So there's a part of Operation Ouch where we use animal anatomy to teach kids about how their body, and that really does come from Dad doing experiments on dissected hearts and lungs and chicken's feet when we were little. And that's probably one of the reasons that we went into medicine.
I love that. I think that's just amazing. Most kids are coming home and watching TV, and you were coming home and operating on animal guts. That's just incredible.
We did watch a lot of TV as well.
Zand, can I ask you as well, what's the key to Operation Ouch? Because I know that you guys, you are so unique, and even during your audition, I think, did you make each other sick?
Well, no, Chris made me sick. He tried to put it, when we screen tested for the show with Maverick, who make it, and we found the audition tape last year. And he puts a nasogastric tube in, which is a tube that goes through your nose and down into your stomach. And it just, once it gets to the back of your throat, you start retching. I think I'm probably the only person who's got a job after vomiting in a job interview and because they vomited in the job interview. For me, I guess the secret for me, or at least part of it, is that we don't do a lot of eat your greens. We don't do a lot of, you have to be healthy and all this stuff. The primary aim of the show is to entertain and to reassure people and go, look, something will happen to you and the people you love. And there are people all over the UK standing by waiting to look after you. And we get so many messages from people who say that the show has helped their kid or themselves when they're in A&E, when they're injured, when they've got a sick family member. Those are the nicest things to hear.
And the series celebrates its 10th birthday. Did you expect it to still be going and growing so strong?
Well, no, I guess not. No, because on children's TV, at least this is how I think about it, is that you think, well, the kids, the kids who were watching Operation Ouch when it started are now at medical school, some of them. They're training as paramedics, as nurses, they're in healthcare, they're just adults. and so they're often getting lectured by Chris and Ronks. I think have got a few students of their own who grew up with the program, and so no, you think, well, surely they'll stop us doing it eventually. There's enough, but we healthcare is infinitely renewable and infinitely fascinating, and there are major bits of the body we've never talked about. We've never talked about the elbow on the show. We've never done a thing on the elbow. We're still missing, still a lot to do.
Chris, when you watch the first series or the first few episodes, how different is the show today to when you first started out?
Aside from the hairlines, one of the things that has changed enormously, I mean, the arrival of Ronks brought, they've described it as diversity. I think they brought a new way of thinking about medicine. Zan and I think were, I hope, aware of the social issues, but it was quite a science-focused show. And that was a very easy thing in series one. It was very much about the science, because that's a very safe thing for lots of reasons, politically on the BBC and in terms of facts. It's an easy access. And it took us another few series to get lots of the humour in. And then I think now we are really able to deal with much more sophisticated and complex issues than we were. So, for example, we've just made a programme, Where Do Babies Come From? I think is going to be the title of it. And I think if Zan and I had done that without Ronks or, without the decade of experience, would have been a very, very different show. So this progression in every way, very much the world around us has also changed in the last decade, for the most part, in very positive ways.
Let me just switch up and just talk a little bit more about how it all started, Operation Ouch. Can we talk about what actually happened to get both Chris and Zand involved in it in the first place? Did someone get in touch with you? Did they say, look, we want to pitch this idea? Can you just give us a bit of a history as to how the show came about?
As I recall, it was a pretty straightforward casting call, and we auditioned. And because in the audition, I put a needle in Zan's arm and we took out some blood and I gave him some fluid, and then we put this tube into the stomach, not just to make him sick, but to show we could get up stomach acid. I think then that transformed the laboratory part of the show, because they realized how immersive we could be. And the fact of being both of us doctors and siblings gave us this possibility of doing experiments on each other. So I think, and then I think we helped craft particularly that lab part of the show. But we still have people on the team who were there in series one, and it's a very, very collaborative process. And you said earlier, we write it. We do definitely contribute to the writing. We used to write a lot of it. The team now is so good at writing in our voice that there is a certain amount of we can turn up and be handed a script and it sounds exactly like us. I don't want to take anything away from the team there.
Dr. Zand, what about you? Can you remember those early days? And were you excited about this idea of doing a children's TV show?
The main thing that I think about when I think about most of the filming of Operation Ouch is that I've never worked longer days, even in the hospital, even in refugee camps. Operation Ouch days were sometimes 16 hours long. And then you're up the next morning at 6 a.m. starting again, and then every time we got better at doing it, we just have to do it better and do more, and get more complicated. So you're kind of running to stand still, and so with that environment, everything has to be brilliant and good and funny in order for you to want to do it. And I think it was really after the first couple of series, when we started to meet kids who watched it, that we understood what we were doing. And you remember the television that you watched when you were a kid and how important that was, and how much that changed your life and all the ideas that it gave you and all those things. And so I think now I have a much more understanding of the audience and what it does to them and what we want to do in each scene. Each scene now we're thinking, how will this impact a kid who's in hospital, who knows they're in hospital, or is wondering this, what questions they have. But the first couple of years were, and even, Ron says, they came in later, but I mean, it's still a baptism of fire every season. It still feels like you can't get it done. I mean, COVID, all this stuff. It's not. I know I'm making it sound like a war zone, but it's everyone knows like making telly's the most difficult thing you can do.
Yeah. And it does. You're right. It takes so long sometimes. Ronks, what about you? What was your audition process like?
It's so bizarre. It was such a serendipitous moment for me. Before I joined Operation Ouch, I live in Hackney, I work in Hackney, and obviously coming from a disadvantaged background and not being very privileged, I am a bit of a success story in regards to my kind of social economic junior landscape. And I used to give talks at schools, and then I gave a talk on International Women's Day when I identified as cis female. And Kez was there. Kez lives in Hackney or nearby Hackney, and had turned up to do some speed mentoring. And I was giving a keynote speech just because I really love medicine and I wanted to get more young people into medicine. And I remember Kez wheeled up to me, she's a wheelchair user, and gave me her card and was like, "You would be great on my show." And I kind of looked at the card and was like, okay, all right. Because I've had people say this before, like, "Oh, you'll be great for telly, and nothing ever happened. And then literally about 9 months later, I meet Kristen's aunt, and it was like meeting siblings. And we literally just get on. People often ask, do you get on with the twins? And I'm like, if we argue, it's never a fight argue. It's a disagreement, and then we work it out. Like there's never. What you go on? You're going to say?
But what we can do is we can fight like siblings, can't we? I mean, you are one of the few people I can have a stand-up row with no love lost. You and Zand. I mean, it's you and Zand are the same. It's the same kind of relationship, but I don't spit at you in the way that, we won't do a spit take with rocks.
No.
I think there was a really interesting thing early on where I don't know if Ronks would say this, but Zand and I didn't understand the value of the show in reassuring children who were ill. I think that was very much a production team ideal. In a sense, I was a bit worried we might end up sending children to hospital by making it seem more appealing, and I think that was really drummed into me that kids did find it much easier, and our clinical colleagues said, because of the way the show was crafted by the whole team, children found operations easier, procedures, needles, the whole thing. And there is now, we do quite a deliberate thing. The show is very hard to watch. I think all three of us would say there are moments when we watch it during the voiceover and we wince or have to look away. And that's a very conscious decision now that we make it challenging to watch, because it forces children to confront fears and they learn to become not disgusted or frightened by blood or emergencies. And we're pretty sure that makes them better at dealing with their own injuries and with the injuries of other people.
You're all still practicing doctors, aren't you? Yeah. But how do you...
Zand is not.
Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm not. Being a doctor on the television, I have to have a discussion with the GMC and discuss. So I'm registered with the GMC. I don't have a license to practice, but I'm in good standing with the GMC, the General Medical Council. Okay, no. Well, anyway. No, but I'm just saying, like, there's a whole thing where you have to, like, the point is that you do then have to be careful and still stay within your remit, and there are certain things you're allowed to discuss and certain things you're not allowed to do. So we're very careful about that. Anyway, that's why I'm emphasising it.
Still, though, how do you juggle stardom and a stethoscope? How do you kind of do the balancing with working on the TV programmes and your regular work?
I think for me, it had to be a conscious decision that when I'm at work, I'm at work. And if I'm at work and there are kids, because I love children's A&E, if there are kids that recognise me, then we can use Operation Ouch to facilitate and make the experience a lot more joyous. But I do not allow the kind of success of the show or even ego or fame to, in a way that enables my work life to be easier. Does that make sense?
And Chris, what about you? Do you struggle with that balance?
There's a strange thing about being a public figure, but you're famous with sort of 6 to 12-year-olds. And Ricky, you may recognise this. It's the nicest way of having public profile, because actually the generation of children have their parents are all peers. So it does, in an odd way, open lots of nice doors. And people are very respectful in clinic. Operation Ouch is quite an embarrassing program. I think one of the values of the show is we all are happy to embarrass ourselves, and that's a way of licensing kids to do the same. But you do get odd experiences where people are so courteous, and you'll have quite an intimate medical discussion with them about some quite personal, grown-up, maybe very serious problem, and at the end they'll want a selfie for their kid or something. But it doesn't seem to be. It's never been a particular problem.
So we know the series doesn't shy away from sensitive and sometimes quite distressing imagery and stories, because we've had kids on the programme with leukemia to really innovative surgery as well. Why is telling them these kind of stories important? And we'll go with you, Zand. Why is that important?
When we were kids, certainly when I remember being young and there were children who were ill at school, no one knew what to say to them, how to interact with them. People were terrified of hospitals. I didn't know anything about how my body worked. And so once you put someone on television with either a rare condition that's so unusual that no one's heard of it, or something that kids may have heard of but just are frightened of or don't know about, you can demystify it. But also a lot of what we do with what we call the ouch patients, the kids who tell their stories regularly on the show, and we follow them in their lives, is a lot of it is them telling us about their pets, their family, their trip to the hospital, the procedure they're having. Kids really like to hear from other kids. Yeah. And once you've heard from a kid who's got leukemia and is having chemotherapy, then when you meet someone, or when that's you, it facilitates a whole different range of questions. And so it's one of the nicest bits of the show, the bits of the show that I'm proudest of, the bits that we're not in, where it's kids who explain to other kids what they need, how to talk to me about my Down syndrome, how to talk to me about autism, what words to use. Yeah. Enormously good, and so much better than, kids don't want to listen to me telling them what to say.
So Chris, do you think children's perception of going to hospital, of just the hospital in general, has changed because of Operation Ouch?
I'm pretty sure it has. I mean, that sounds rather conceited, but certainly the children that watch it regularly, we understand from staff, and we speak to huge numbers of staff and children. We do a live show as well. So I think we've got quite a lot of data that we get that says yes, and it's helpful. We do know that. And children, of course, one of the things I think we all find is we can put far more science and medical content, much more detail on children's television than we usually do on adult television. Children are really enthusiastic to learn. They're not intimidated if something's hard to understand, and we are able to explain things using humor. So I think maybe the other thing that surprised me is not just changing children's relationship with hospitals, but changing their relationship with their bodies, in the sense of they're actually able to take on very, very sophisticated concepts, 10-year-olds just as well as 40-year-olds.
Have you ever heard from any parents who say that they won't let their kids watch Operation Ouch?
No. What we usually get is, I often get parents say to me at least a couple of times a week, I couldn't watch that bit. I just couldn't watch that bit. And the kids are like watching like this. They go through stages. They start off at 3 like this, and then they're like this, and then they get to about 6 years old and they're like, oh yeah, I saw that broken bone. I know what a broken bone is, Dr. Ronks. I saw it. So they go through phases. And I think our gross alerts, again, I think Chris and Zand will tell you, from season 1 and 2, they didn't have gross alerts. I remember watching season 1 when we did a recap for one of the shows, and I was like, where's the gross alert? And they had no gross alerts. So now we pre-warn kids, so they know, but often it's a process. They eventually just love it.
Has there ever been any pushback from the BBC over the nature of seeing cuts and vomit, poo and all the other stuff that you guys show? And we know that kids love it, or the audience does, but has there ever been a pushback from the BBC? We know, like you were just saying, Ronks, you've got the warning there, or that came in after the second series, but have the BBC ever said to you, no, we're not doing this?
So we had a senior person at CBBC and a senior boss of mine at UCL, and their children watching it passed out because it was so gross. And that, I believe, was what led. No, I mean, we thought we'd be cancelled, but instead we just got gross alert. So perhaps we got off pretty lightly. But no, we've never. Maybe we are shielded by production, but we do get to see the odd query about a fact. People write in and question things, and sometimes we are involved in making sure the response is medically accurate. I mean, I don't. The production team are so careful and diligent that I think we really, really don't get many problems.
I think I would like to also add that I think we filmed 2 with me, and then the 3rd season that we filmed, I changed my pronouns, and that's not been a massive thing either. In the show, even on the scripts, I'm referred to as they, and it's not been made a massive thing. And I can categorically say that happening in a really soft, not kind of spotlighted way, had really changed the. I don't want to say life because that sounds a bit egotistic, but there are a lot of young people that have been like, oh my God, Operation Houch is using they, them pronouns. I've had 1,000,009 parents come up to me and say, oh, my children love you. And anytime I say Dr. Ronks, she, they go, no, Dr. Ronks, they, them. So there have been many conversations that have been facilitated from gender, from conditions, from correct language and use. Even now we're doing sign language. I really do feel with each series we are just not attacking, but we're addressing subjects which I think parents have maybe struggled to address with their children.
Zan, have you got anything to add?
We get emails from parents who say, my son knew what to do when my heart valve started leaking and I was dying, and they called 999. We started an awards section of the show because so many people were getting in touch saying, our kid has saved a life, has become a better carer, all these things. We get, it's just it's an amazing show to work on because of so much feedback we get about how.
I think that does come from the really deep commitment of the whole team to an idea that children are really important, and doing things in the best way we can is the right way of doing things, and that's very nice.
Zan and Chris, you guys do seem to relish putting yourselves at the centre of the experiment. I think one of you is always the guinea pig, but was there ever an experiment that either went wrong or perhaps made you too squeamish?
Yeah, no, there was. No, the main one, we were trying to distill urine to prove a point about the water content of urine. And it was just a long day and nothing had worked. And we're in a lab, but we're not being scientists in the lab, we're being telepresenters. We just hadn't. Anyway, the distillery bubbled over and Chris was just presented with this beaker of basically dilute urine. And it was just like, look, we got to finish the scene. Have a big sip. And and the whole lab absolutely reeked of boiling wee, the whole thing. It was really bad. And that's not uncommon, right? I mean, even when we're doing like all the different kinds of poo from humans and animals, we went to the zoo and got all these real poos, and like tiger poo is just like cat poo, but much bigger and smellier. And then you've got tubs of human poo. The whole thing, I mean, it basically is like, is there ever an experiment that is like cold, gross, sticky, unpleasant, and then like have a shower and film the next thing? Like that's the normal thing.
It was your poo that was the worst smell. I think you've missed that bit out. Wasn't it, Chris?
It was.
But do you know what? You know what I get from talking to 3 of you, that real family vibe. And you were saying, when I spoke to you guys about how important it is to have that family vibe, because the writers, the whole team who've worked in it over the years has been such a tight-knit family. And you really see that on air as well. How important is that family aspect to Operation Ouch?
There's a real family vibe to the whole thing, and everyone is good friends off the show as well. Partly because we have these weeks of the year where we film the laboratory bits, and we're in a hotel for a fortnight together, and so that's been quite a bonding experience. I'm glad you say that comes across on the screen, because it is what's happening behind the camera.
And how important was it for you, Ronks, to be accepted in that family?
I always say to Chris and Zand, and I don't know if you're going to put this in, I say they're my favourite white men. I absolutely love them. And I've never, apart from where I actually work at the moment, and I've never had such a close-knit team, worked with a close-knit team. Like, I have Chris and Zan's numbers, they've come to my birthday party, I've gone to their houses, we hang out.
You can't just say you've got our phone numbers. I mean, that's not a reflection of closeness.
I should hope so.
No, but I mean, like, I could literally send them memes and we text. It's not just a working relationship. Like, I actually can come with them with advice. We've had ask for advice. We've had dinner. Like, we are real friends. So if Operation Ouch finished tomorrow, we would still be friends.
Yeah. And I feel that that's very much a children's TV environment. You know, you see that more on kind of children's TV productions. That because a lot of people are young, they've worked together for a long time. Like you say, it's long hours and people are dedicated. So I think that really does come across on Operation Ouch.
And you're not getting paid enough that you better like the people you're with, because no one's getting rich.
So true. Absolutely. Now, hit the nail on the head there. As well as being an entertaining and informative show, it also serves another purpose. It's become a bit of a career service too, hasn't it? In fact, let's see a little clip now.
We're really proud that Ouch fans are everywhere, and we've even inspired some of your career choices.
Hi.
Hi.
I used to watch Operation Ouch almost every single day after I'd come back from school, and it made me want to study medicine.
Really fascinated me how Chris and Zand would delve so deeply into the anatomy of the human body. I'm studying a degree at Liverpool University to hopefully become a medical physicist in the future.
I'm in my third year of university studying medicine. It taught me what it was really like to be a medical professional or a doctor working in a busy hospital ward.
I'm also a twin, so I loved watching Chris and Zand bicker. It was very entertaining, but it inspired me to sort of take that forward in my paediatrics placement.
So how does that make you guys feel when you see that?
For me, I often at work, because I work in A&E and I'm constantly having interactions with young people, there is something about meeting a young person who says, like, I didn't think I wanted to be a doctor, I wasn't interested in the human body, but I've watched Operation Out since I was a young person and I want to do X, Y or Z. Or they'll say, I've watched Kristen Zahn since I was a baby and now you've joined and you look like me and it's amazing and I can be a doctor, I can be a nurse, or I can be... So just being an inspiration to somebody, for me, wasn't ever anything I really set out to be. And Operation Ouch has just allowed... Oh, sorry, a dog's just walked in. Operation Ouch has just allowed, I think... for people from marginalised communities who hadn't seen somebody that looked like them, who's, you know, not very well spoken, has dreadlocks, is a bit, you know, just not your archetypal doctor, has been really, really important. And I think Chris and Zand can say the same.
Chris, what about you?
Was it sort of nervous to feel too much pride about that? I don't want to sound falsely modest. I feel like I feel very, very lucky to be part of Operation Ouch, and I'm a cog in a wonderful machine. I never feel I'm really the one inspiring them. And the other thing that happens, of course, is all my medical students, when I lecture them, they've all watched Ouch, but my medical lectures aren't like Operation Ouch, right? We don't script them in that way. They're not full of jokes. It's very much kind of learn the stuff and hand in your essays. So I think sometimes they're almost a bit disappointed. We are, remember, not in the show very much, or any of us. A lot of the show is showcasing amazing healthcare professionals and incredible patients, and allowing those people to be the face of the profession and the science and to showcase their expertise. And that's also really important, because I think Zand and I are very conscious that a lot of people like us from our backgrounds do become clinicians. And that doesn't necessarily delegitimize our voice, but it's very, very important. We do need much more diverse doctors. We know they are better doctors for patients, who of course are a really diverse community of people. Yeah, Operation Ouch, certainly in my case, makes me look very much better perhaps than I am in real life. So I feel very grateful about that in an odd way. That doesn't sound weird.
No, I like it. Zand, what about you? Because over the years you were saying the real public service reason behind Operation Ouch is so obvious now, isn't it? You have the live tours, you really helped children come to terms with how their body works, but also what's so impressive is that you are maybe creating a whole new generation of young people who want to get into the same field that you are in. How do you feel about that?
Look, I mean, healthcare is one of the most rewarding, wonderful things you can do, and we need such a diverse range of people in all sorts of ways. We need people who are motivated in different ways, who are, you want a mixture of healthcare workers who are funny and comedic and nerdy and scientific and from all different races, religions, backgrounds, because the patients, when you're dealing with patients, you have to be deeply motivated in that way. And so if we can take kids who would otherwise never have considered that as a career and get them into it, it's not quite true to say anyone can be a doctor or anyone can be a nurse, but motivation is such a big part of it. That if you stick your mind to it, really, really people can achieve amazing things. And the main thing you want is someone who's motivated. And so if we can stir people up to do it, that's wonderful. But if the kids watching it don't want to be doctors, but at least they know where their pancreas is and what it does, and they have an affection, they're not terrified of doctors. I'm happy if kids are like, we had a lovely time watching the show. I respect my body a bit more. I'm going to win the pub quiz when I'm older. Yeah. That's a good result. And I'm not afraid to go to A&E when something's wrong with me. That's a big win.
So listen, thank you so much for all of your answers. We've got the magazine, we've got the TV programme, we've got more series to come, the live shows. Can you tell us, Chris, first of all, what is next for Operation Ouch as it continues to evolve?
We've just put one more series in the can. Series 11 is in the can for broadcast in the autumn. We're going to be filming at Zand's house, Do Try This at Home, which is a lab series we film in his kitchen with experiments that you can do out of home. That came out of lockdown. And then we've got, we're touring Australia, we hope, in January, and there may be some live shows in the UK, but that's to be determined. So there's a lot coming, and we definitely want a series 12 if it's to be commissioned.
The game. We've just recorded the game.
Oh, I haven't done that yet. I've got to go and do the voiceover for the game. So there is also a game. These two have just done it. I'm about to do it. Talk about the game then, Rongs.
The game is amazing. Again, Operation Ouch is great in terms of educating folk, but this is a game in which, am I even allowed to say? I mean, I'm going to say it anyway. Chris and Zand are in the human body, and they are basically explaining the human body through the game by doing certain things, and I direct them. That's all I can say. There's lots of poo, there's lots of mucus, lots of correct terminology, but most importantly, lots of fun.
Brilliant.
And we have a special episode coming out. Operation Ouch goes to space, and so we do not quite get to space, although we meet astronauts. We learn about all kinds of space medicine, and Chris goes on the Vomit Comet, the plane doing the parabolic flight. So we have Chris in zero gravity examining what that does to the human body.
Brilliant.
We also have specials on cancer and where babies come from. So we are, after 10 years, really trying to grapple with topics that we know that children want to know about, and we're sure that we should be talking about cancer. Cancer will affect every single person who watches the show in one way or another, and so we have to be talking about it. And it's incredible what the team have done with that.
Do you know, it's absolutely amazing. Even Newsround, in the time that I've been on the programme, doing specials about periods, having periods, to discussing same-sex marriage and things like that. When I first started, the conversations were always, I'm not sure, are we allowed? And to now do specials about having a period, talking about sexism, all of those things. There has been such a huge change in the last decade on children's BBC and children's TV, I think, in general. And you hope that Operation Ouch obviously continues to do that. But listen, thank you so much for talking to us. It's been brilliant to have you all, Chris, Zan and Ronks. I really appreciate your time today. Thank you for talking to us and for giving us the key to Operation Ouch. Really appreciate it.
Such a pleasure. So nice to see you, Ricky.
Thank you.
Ricky.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.